Today on the Spot, we get the latest coming to PlayStation Network and double demos of Shogun 2 Total War and LEGO Star Wars 3 The Clone Wars. Today on the Spot.
Welcome everybody to the GameSpot studios for another episode of Today on the Spot. It's the weekend. You're hanging out with Chris, Caro, and tiny little Emperor Napoleon. Caro, I heard recently Napoleon was not actually super short.
Is that right?
I heard that he was like 5'10", and that he went around with tall guards, and that's why everyone made fun of him being short.
That just shakes up my entire concept of Napoleon. I mean, which is based on the historical document that is Bill and Ted's. Which is the first one?
Excellent Adventure.
The Excellent Adventure, of course. Not the bogus journey.
I mean, you watch that in history class.
Exactly.
Because that is historical canon.
Right.
We've got little Napoleon here with us, along with some other Total War swag, because that's our trivia prize for today. We got a demo for Shogun 2 Total War, as well as some Star Wars fun time for you folks later in the show. But first, to the news desk and the GameSpot news team with a news update on the news.
Hey everybody, it's your GameSpot news update for Saturday, January 15th. I'm Tor Thorson. While the NPD numbers are in for December, the news wasn't good. For the month, the NPD group reported that total U.S. retail sales of gaming software, hardware, and accessories were $5.06 billion, down 9% from the same period last year. Activision's blockbuster Call of Duty Black Ops repeated as the best-selling game of the month and has now reached sales of 12 million in the U.S. alone, making it the top game of 2010. According to the NPD Group, that's more than double the next best-selling game of the year, EA Sports Madden NFL 11. Unfortunately, not even Black Ops' continued success could push software sales into positive territory. Console, handheld, and PC games combined to sell $2.5 billion, down about 5% year over year. On the hardware front, the top-selling console was the Wii with 2.3 million units sold, followed by the Xbox 360 with 1.9 million units sold. And third was the PlayStation 3 with 1.2 million units sold, slightly above analyst estimates. Overall, though, sales were depressed in December, with U.S. retailers moving only $1.8 billion worth of consoles and portables, down 16% year over year. For the full year, hardware sales fell 13% from $7.2 billion to $6.3 billion. Software sales were also down, slipping 5% from $10.6 billion to $10.1 billion. Overall, retail sales of non-PC software, hardware, and accessories slid 6% in 2010, falling from $19.7 billion in 2009 to $18.6 billion in 2010. Well, that's it, your GameSpot news update for Saturday, January 15th. For more headlines, head on over to news.gamespot.com.
All right, folks, up next, we've got our first of two daily demos queued up for you. But before we get there, Caro and I wanted to talk about our dynamic prize pack that you see here. And Caro is actually modeling the hoodie part of this pack.
That's right. And this hoodie, it's for Napoleon Total War. And it actually lets you, with this handy pocket here, mimic Napoleon himself. You can pose like him, like so, and you don't even have to be, committed to a mental institution to kind of live out that Napoleon, fantasy.
That's excellent.
It's a very nice feature. So the people who brought us Napoleon Total War are actually now bringing us Shogun 2 Total War, and here is Andrew Park with a nice long demo of that. Check it out.
All right, so hi everyone. We're here today with Kieran Brigden, our good friend from Creative Assembly. Kieran, thanks a lot for stopping by, and we're here to talk about a game called Shogun 2 Total War, I think.
We are indeed, yes, outside the beautiful Buckingham Palace. We're here to talk about Total War Shogun 2. Shogun 2 is the latest in the Total War series of games. It is the sequel to the game that started the entire series 10 years ago. And for those people at home who may not be familiar, it's a combination of real-time and turn-based strategy on PC. It has like a kind of a turn-based campaign map, very much like Civilization or Risk, and then real-time battles, very similar to, say, Command & Conquer or StarCraft.
Total War has been around for a long, long time, but we understand that Shogun 2 is making a lot of really big changes kind of to that Total War formula. Can we talk about some of the biggest changes to the game?
Yeah, I think obviously we constantly progress things like the visuals and the technology behind the game, and that's usually kind of self-evident when people see it. But one of the big pillars that we've added this time around for Shogun 2 is the multiplayer functionality. So in Shogun 2's predecessors, games like Empire and Napoleon, we introduced naval gameplay for the first time, so you could actually fight naval engagements on the high seas, and that was like another major pillar added to the franchise. And by adding a huge amount of multiplayer options options now, including some kind of persistent kind of online presence options for your character and your avatar. We hope to kind of bring a whole new kind of column, as it were, to the Total War series. So yeah, certainly one of the biggest additions is multiplayer functionality. That goes beyond the standard gameplay modes. So you get kind of multiplayer campaign out of the box. You get multiplayer battles for land and sea, and all those kind of things, and like quick battles and drop-in battles. But in addition, we now have a kind of a persistent online avatar system, which says, this is your online identity. Every battle you fight means something. You gain veterancy for your units and armies, and you can then yield those and wield those units in future battles, having upgraded them. You can unlock skills and abilities for that avatar, giving you bonuses on the kind of online gameplay world, as it were. And of course, we have a huge kind of clan ranking structure as well this time around. So it's a very big kind of addition for the series.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that's always been really impressive about the Total War series is just the huge real-time strategy battles. And going from 300 plus units down to about 40, that's a big change, but we understand there are going to be some other factors as well. There's going to be things like weather, I guess dynamically generated maps based on the strategic map. Tell us about some of those changes.
Yeah, so some of the stuff we're doing with, we've got a new battle tile system in the engine, and basically what that allows us to do is it takes kind of your geographic position per pixel on the campaign map and says, right, where you're fighting now, you have a river to your right, you have mountains over to the north, and so on and so forth, and it kind of constructs a map based on those principles. And then on top of that, it adds the season. So Shogun 2, the turn-based part on the campaign map, it's 1 turn per season. So you get 4 turns a year, and you get, about, let me think, approximately 1545, probably about 60 years worth of gameplay. It's 65, which gives you a huge number of turns and a huge number of seasons. So it constructs the map based on your geography, then it adds the season on top and all the associated weather comes with that. Depending on if you've chosen to fight at night or indeed during the day, you'll get kind of a dusk battle, dawn, midday, or literally a nighttime battle. All of those things kind of factor into the way that the battle plays. It's not just a nice bit of eye candy to be doing this or that. I mean, you'll find things like weather and rain and everything affects the kind of accuracy of your long-range units, things like your archers and indeed your early gunpowder units. And of course the morale of your troops suffers, and their ability and their stamina gets much reduced in things like the snow, or maybe in certain amounts of heat. And of course, in addition to that, the whole thing kind of adds together to make a different experience every time around. So the clan you're playing against, the kind of unit array they have against you, all of these things are really kind of dynamic and they change. So we want to make sure that every battle feels significant, unique, different, and important. It's part of your campaign to conquer the islands of Japan, and your campaign to establish yourself as the leader of all of these other competitive factions. And it's one of the great things about Total War is writing your narrative into history, and we really want to make sure that the battles enable you to do that.
But one of the other big changes in the battles in Shogun 2 is going to be, I guess, a different siege system. I mean, we understand there's going to be, I guess you can have different types of castles depending on the terrain, and then there are different upgrade levels, and I guess just a different kind of ebb and flow of the battle. How are sieges different?
So this comes out of historical research to begin with, as well as the desire to kind of push the game forward a bit. We in Europe, the way that sieges worked in Europe all the way up until kind of Napoleonic times, from kind of medieval ages onwards, is basically you have a big stone keep, and around that you build a big old wall, and the attackers have 2 options: sit and wait, or punch a hole in the wall and get through. The defender has 2 options: sit and wait, or go out and attack the attacker. And that was how the Europeans, rather uninspired way of fighting warfare. The Japanese, on the other hand, had an entirely different approach to the whole thing. They had a huge kind of way of designing their castles, a myriad different combinations, where it was essentially a giant maze of death. And they'd just be like, they'd open the doors and say, come on in. You had a kind of a tiered, almost wedding cake style look to the castles, which said, you'd maybe give level 1 to the enemy, just so you could funnel them into level 2 and create all these kind of killing corridors and various other kind of bits and pieces where you can entrap them, or where their numbers can't work for them, and so on and so forth. So there was a real ebb and flow to kind of siege battles in Japanese history, which is not necessarily reflected in European history. So we've got that into the game by making sure you have different types of castles and different upgrade levels to those castles. So you'll have, for example, castles built on the coast, castles built in flat plains land, and indeed castles built onto the top of mountains. And one of the unique Japanese things there is literally you kind of plane the mountain top off at the top, and the castle walls are the mountain all the way down. So you're not going to destroy a mountain to get to something. So you're literally forced to siege it. And each of those castles can be upgraded up to 5 times, leading to kind of extremely kind of of complex palatial structures with all these different tiers and entrances and exits, and within those different zones of control. So kind of automated defense towers, gate structures, in addition to the final keep that you're going to want to defend or take. It creates a much more dynamic experience for the gamer, which we're really enjoying internally, and we hope they will too.
Mm-hmm. And of course, another thing we've seen in the progression from some of the more recent Total War games is the introduction of naval combat. We saw the Empire and Napoleon. Can we talk about kind of the naval combat in Shogun 2? How's that going to work?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting, when you make stuff like that, it's kind of an interesting challenge, because when you think about Empire's naval combat or Napoleon's, it's kind of the master and commander style, big kind of broad sail ships spinning around each other and boom, 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 all this kind of stuff. But when you start thinking about how you do it in Japanese history, so before pre-gunpowder era, or before gunpowder is mass used in terms of cannons and artillery, what did that mean for naval battles? Did guys just bonk each other over the head with oars? Is it like, excuse me, just one moment, I'm going to moor up next to you and bang you over the head with a piece of wood? But actually the naval battles in Japanese history are really quite interesting, because first off, they didn't have these deep water ships. They don't have giant kind of galleons that sail out into the ocean. They have essentially rafts, which they use in very close waters around the coast. So the first thing we did was include the coastlines in the naval battles. So the naval battles now take place around kind of shoals and inlets and beaches and rocks, and all of that adds to the tactics, because you're going to want to smash your enemy up against the rocks. You're going to want to stay clear yourself. You're going to want to go ahead and make sure that you try and do it if you can in clear seas and clear weather. But if you get into kind of autumn and winter and the tsunami season, that you're looking at kind of very high waves that can cause chaotic damage to your fleets. And then on top of that, they had a design system where they basically went from to floating castles. So they'd build these little floating sheds, which guys would peek out of the window, and fire arrows at each other, or try and jump over to the other ship, all the way up to these giant kind of huge boats where it was basically a huge wooden castle on a raft. And the idea was it was kind of floating castle warfare, where you'd get one castle next to another, and they'd shoot each other through the windows and everything with firearms and with arrows. And of course, the big thing on these ships and at this period is setting each other on fire. If you can actually set light to an enemy vessel, there's not a whole lot they can do about it other than jump into the ocean and face the sharks. So in that respect, it's very different. It's very interesting tactically.
We understand there's also going to be some new additions to the strategic system. For instance, in Japan, they had a completely different way of handling espionage and intrigue. Tell us about some of the new unique ways that players are able to do that in Shogun 2.
Yeah, and this for me is one of my favorite areas of the game. The kind of the RPG system and the way that the agent system works now. You're not just in control of this clan. All of these individual, say, ninjas or geishas or monks or metsuke, who are like secret policemen that you can hire on the campaign map. We need to make them your characters. And previously the system was that they were just given attributes. So if you left them in a city or a tavern, they got fat and drunk, and that was kind of like attribute given fat, attribute given drunk. Whereas now everything you do gains them XP. You're able to then select kind of the skills they have and the bonuses they get from a skill tree, which is different for every agent type. And this includes your generals as well. You get a huge skill tree for the generals. And it basically means that these characters are emergent.
Yeah, so that's a lot of really cool new stuff. I think we all really can't wait to play it. So Kieran, just to close that, if you could remind the viewers at home when the game is coming out.
Sure thing. Hello viewers at home. Shogun 2 releases in March this year, and you'll get a chance to play it on PC.
That's right, so Shogun 2, Total War for the PC in March of this year. Thanks a lot for watching.
Thank you.
I don't know about any of you folks at home, but last week on PSN got me re-addicted to Tetris in a big way, like dreaming about lines and, like sort of doing thumb motions in my sleep, kind of addictive. It's fun, but, I'm looking to cleanse my palate. Maybe there's something new this week on PSN to catch my fancy? Let's find out.
This week on PlayStation Network, it's a pretty light week, but there's some worthwhile downloads for you to check out. In downloadable games, put on some wings and check out Fairy Legends of Avalon. A magic world is dying, and it's up to you to save it. Fly around a Norse tree, a ghost ship, and a giant desert scarab, recruiting a cast of fantastic creatures to help you on your quest. Want to try it out? There's a demo. Next, the lovable penguin is back in Prinny 2 Dawn of Operation Panties, dude. The Prinnies are sent on another quest by their twisted master, Demon Lord Etna. Take control of 1,000 puny Prinnies of the Prinny Squad and reclaim Etna's panties. Traverse levels with day-night cycles and slash through challenging new bosses and familiar foes alike. In game add-ons, iPet releases the Sports Pack, Mod Nation Racers gets the Jack and Daxter Mod and Kart, Dead Rising 2 gets a Skills Pack bundle, Fist of the North Star gets DLC Pack 7, The Sims 3 gets the Asian Fusion Pack and Eco Pack. Super Street Fighter 4 gets the Ultra Shadaloo Pack. Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock releases a January Mega Pack, and Rock Band 3 gets the Linkin Park Pack 1. In-game trailers, take a look at the Fairy Legends of Avalon trailer, and don't forget to take a second look at the DC Universe Online E3 cinematic trailer. That's all the time we have, folks. Join us next week for more This Week on PlayStation Network.
Hey everyone, and welcome to our daily demo. I am joined by Andrew Bell, co-project lead on LEGO Star Wars 3 The Clone Wars. Thanks for coming.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So, the third game in the Star Wars LEGO franchise. Now, what's new about this one?
Well, we've got a lot of new features, and I'm actually, really happy that we get to show you two of the really cool ones. We could jump right into Blue Shadow Virus, which shows off Scene Swap, which is, if you remember from the films, where you've got two teams trying to go after the same goal.
Yeah.
So right here we have Ahsoka Tano and Rex. They're fighting off some droids inside of this hidden base, and of course we can use the Force, solve puzzles, and even pick up droids and throw them around and knock them into each other. Let's come up here, and you'll notice in the upper right-hand corner there's a little circle with Obi-Wan. Sitting there.
Just kind of hanging out there.
Yeah, at any time we can actually swap over to an entirely different part of the level. So here we are as Obi-Wan flying above the base in an LAAT, and we can actually jump into this turret here and start assaulting these shield generators.
Oh, cool. So if you're playing like cooperatively, which most people probably like doing, so it'll be like split screen, and you'll see one person outside and one person indoors?
Absolutely. You're going to have one person playing inside, one person playing outside. And what's really cool about this feature is that each side is helping out the other. So here we are, we're being attacked by Droidicus, and they have red shields, so they can't be destroyed by regular means. So in our upper right-hand corner, it's flashing a little bit to let us know that we need to do something special. So let's get back into this cannon and get to work.
Okay, some teamwork. And now the storyline takes place like during the Clone Wars, so it's kind of based off that TV animated series that...
Exactly. It actually takes place over the entire Clone Wars era. It starts at the end of Attack of the Clones and goes through the Clone Wars film as well as the first two seasons of the animated series.
Oh wow, okay. There's a lot of content to get through then.
It sure is. So here we've destroyed that outer shell of the base, and we can actually jump right into this hole. Now we're inside. But we're not with Ahsoka just yet. So we're going to do a little bit of lightsaber fighting, block a couple light blasters. Another of the cool features that we can do is we can actually pick up droids and turn them into weapons. As you see here, I'm actually picking up the super battle droid and aiming it wherever I like. Take him out. Of course, there's lots of studs for me to collect and purchase characters and all those fun unlockables that you've come to expect and love from the LEGO Star Wars franchise. Absolutely. And more. There's just so much to do. All right, here we're going to use the Force to unlock this little engine here, and that's going to break through the ground, destroy the Droidicas, and then we can actually jump through that same hole and join up with the team for us to advance.
It's a little diversity there.
Yeah, and that's Scene Swap. Now let me show you the next feature that we want to show off.
Okay, so we're going to jump ahead.
Yeah. Okay, well, for those who are familiar with the show or with the films, the Clone Wars are all about these massive battles. And here we've brought that into the game with these massive ground battles, and here we're seeing a little bit of a cutscene introduction into the Battle of Geonosis. If you remember, after the Geonosian Arena, everybody flies out in that sandy storm of just blaster fire and whatnot. You've got Jedi versus droid in this massive battle. And here we get to take part in it. So you can see that we're playing as Mace Windu, and there's giant cannons going off, and there's tons of bad guys on the other side of the field. Yeah. So I'm going to jump into this speeder, and we're going to take a little tour around the battlefield. So these are our bases. We've got barracks, and we've got walkers, and we've got missiles, and we've got tanks. There's the stun tank there.
Are these things that you can build at some point, like these barracks?
Absolutely, you can build all of these things. This is actually just the first kind of experience of ground battles. Later on, you're going to be able to build your own bases, customize those bases to achieve your goals. You'll notice that there's shields and there's gold Lego and silver Lego. You're going to need to find the right tool for the job to destroy each one of these.
Okay.
So here, let's actually jump into this tank right here. Oop, I'm getting
It's always,
stuck.
there's so much stuff going on.
Yeah. Okay, so now I can actually just jump right into the tanks, use these, use its laser to actually attack this gold Lego, which I'm going to be able to heat up to the point of destruction.
Okay, so the gold ones, you need to find some kind of laser.
That's right, you need
cannon.
rapid fire weapons or a laser like that. For silver Lego, you need a walker. So let's go find a big walker. See some troops, they're fighting fighting as we go across the battlefield.
Yeah, it's quite different seeing this on such a massive like world, because usually you're kind of confined to a much smaller space. So when you're playing cooperatively, you still have that dynamic split screen.
Absolutely, yeah. The dynamic split screen from LEGO Indiana Jones 2 is back in LEGO Star Wars 3 for the first time in the LEGO Star Wars franchise history. And here we are in the ATT, and it's just a massive, indestructible tank that we're going to be able to just go through people.
That's crazy.
Really quickly.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
and those are the ground battles of LEGO Star Wars 3.
All right, great. So this is for the Wii, and it probably has like Wii-specific controls. Now, when's the game coming out, and on what platforms?
It's out in March of 2011, and it's on everything imaginable: 360, PS3, Wii, PC, PSP, DS.
All right, and that was our look at LEGO Star Wars 3: The Clone Wars. Now on with the rest of the show.
Hey everybody, it is trivia time.
Yeah! All right, time to give away this stuff to you. Here's the deal. We got 3 different tiers of trivia prize, and I'm going to break it down for you. First tier, first 3 respondees, responders, whatever the word is, you will get the Napoleon Total War Emperor's Edition, which is this right here in the camera you see. The game with the 2 games in it, and then the statue with the sweeping cape and the pointy finger and the yay from a famous painting and kind of fragile. The next 6 people to respond correctly will get the game and the hoodie. And finally, we've got 2 more copies of the game for the 10th and 11th respondents. Caro, the question.
Yes, sir. What was the name of the mighty Shogun who unified Japan in the Edo period? If you think you know the answer, email us at onthespot@gamespot.com or enter it in the trivia module on the side of the page.
Now, before we shoo you outside to go play in whatever weather it is outside in your geographical region, we got a few notes about next week you're going to want to listen to. First off, no Tuesday Tots. That's because we're going to be traveling to New York City, New York for the Wednesday Nintendo event. They'll be unveiling a lot of 3DS games. We'll be there. We'll be playing it. We got the press conference coming at you live, 6 a.m. Pacific time on the West Coast. So tune in for a live broadcast of that. All sorts of exciting stuff from Nintendo.
And we've also got all kinds of cool stuff coming out of THQ next week. So we'll be showing that off throughout the week, so be sure to tune in for that as well.
All sorts of good stuff for you folks. And now, it's time to go outside and play in the rain, snow, whatever you got out there. From everyone here in the GameSpot studios, I'm Chris Waters.
I'm Caro Pettit.
Thanks for joining us, and have a great weekend. Say you have it. Have a great weekend. This is Chris trying out intro tosses in his brain.